Kimberly Cole is a friend of mine from London. She's also, like everybody here, a global citizen. I asked her to speak. She came. I asked her on the spot because I've been so happy to have you here, and it's been a while. And some of the things that you're doing, I think, are very relevant to the discussion. Would you please welcome Kimberly Cole?
Thank you, everybody. So I'm going to try to keep it short because we had the lovely French accent, and you've got an Aussie sandwich with me speaking now around you, Jean-Pierre. So my name's Kimberly Cole. My day job is Chief Commercial Officer at Link, and I will tell you a bit more about that. But I get described as a super connector, although I would say probably not as super as Julie, and also as a constructive disruptor. So they're two of the things that I love about Link, because we both connect and we are looking to disrupt. But for 28 and a half years, as I told you last night, I worked for a 150-year-old company, which was Thomson Reuters. And what I loved about Thomson Reuters was also the purpose that came with that company, that was also driven around, obviously, a profit motive, being a listed company. But obviously, our journalists, tell stories across the world. We were known for speed, accuracy, and freedom from bias. But they also let me be fairly entrepreneurial. So one of the things that I did when I was there was I created Risky Women, which still exists today. So this is my side hustle. So that was very funny when people were talking about side hustles. This is mine. And it was a network that I started really because I started running the sales organisation for our financial business at Thomson Reuters. And then I took over our risk business. And when I took over our risk business, I would go to see more customers, and it seemed that there were more women than in the general financial markets customers that I was dealing with. So I set up a network that both allowed me to connect with some of these senior women in the industry. Those women also introduced me to all of the often male decision makers in those organisations. So I married this opportunity to shine a light on the talent within the risk and compliance space from a female perspective, but also use that from a business development perspective as well. So we have a podcast. You should all subscribe and listen to my podcast. 5 stars would be fabulous. But my day job, which I will talk a bit more about, and this is our investor deck, and unfortunately it was PDF. So I'm going to skip through a lot of the slides because I don't think you need quite as much information as is in this deck. But so Link is, at a glance, this is our financial metrics, but we are a knowledge platform, and I'll tell you a bit more. Everyone has spoken today about the knowledge economy and things that we're doing, and I think there's 3 different angles that you could take away from this presentation around Link. One, you could use the knowledge network itself. So there's a lot of investors here, there's strategy people, there's people who are looking at market entry, etc. We can connect you with people that can help you around all of those elements. So we work with investment firms, we work with large-scale consulting firms, we work with corporates, and then on that investment space we've got private equity, venture capital, as well as the public markets, hedge funds, etc. as well. So why does Link exist? What is our purpose? And why did it come about? Well, I have a female CEO who's the CEO and founder, and she actually was a buy-side investor in her own right. Anyone in the audience, have you heard of GLG? Okay, so GLG is the largest and oldest expert network, and she was a huge user of GLG services. She also worked for Silver Lake, and Silver Lake were investors in GLG. So she got to see both sides of the equation, and she went, I can do that better. So back to what Jack was talking about, I guess we started off in that copy the strategy and do it better. And now we're really looking at how we totally disrupt that space, and we have a technology platform that is enabling us to do that. So the need for credible access to knowledge and information has never been higher, and for multiple reasons that are all probably obvious to all of you. So the first one is there is a lot of information out there. We are now overwhelmed with information. We can't really navigate and decipher through the amount of information that is available. We're also then targeted by fake news, by not understanding what is actually real and what we're reading, if that is even relevant to us or true. And then the markets, the world, as we know, change is constant, and it is incredibly fast moving. So how do you even navigate and understand what's real? And at the heart of that, we often see that that is actually getting to the right people. That everyone's spoken about trust, but you know that they will be able to actually cut to that perspective that you need that's relevant for your business. It's also one of the biggest bottlenecks on productivity. So this is from a McKinsey study that 25% is the amount of time that employees spend during their week. So more than a day a week trying to find the information on the know-how that they need. So it's very hard often even within a firm to understand who knows what it is that you need to know. But then when you look externally of trying to find the right people, so we're really losing productivity by the fact that it takes a long time to find that information. And those knowledge gaps as well mean that you're often not making the right decisions or the best decisions, and you potentially are opening yourself up for mistakes. And then where you need to be able to adapt, to be agile and to move with the way that the markets are moving and the pace that they're moving at, is also how you can connect information to knowledge to then create some of these opportunities. So it's a huge cost and an opportunity in terms of creating these knowledge networks and platforms to really connect you to the right information. So there's been several, different ways that you could say that this is being done, and you've got a whole lot of different technology platforms. So often people will say, well, isn't it just LinkedIn? You could find people on LinkedIn. There's Quora, where you can ask questions, but it's really at a kind of more consumer level. So how do you do that in a business environment? So there are ways that we're getting more and more information once again, and different techniques, but we don't believe any of these are really getting to the heart of the problem, and putting people, a human in the loop approach, we believe is absolutely key. So as I said, there are service-based solutions. So GLG is the biggest expert network, but it's very expensive, and it is absolutely been fantastic from a cash cow perspective, but they will not adapt and change. And then you've got the McKinseys and the Gartners of the world, but they're often quite expensive, costly solutions. So we have built a people-centric technology platform that connects you. So we've got a knowledge graph that is powered by AI to really, it's fully indexed and searchable, and you can find the right people. We use the engine as well to then be very data driven, and we will enable you to gather more data and more information from every interaction that you have on the platform. So people are generally engaging either through one-on-one consultations, so actually physically speaking to someone over the platform. It's all transcribed and indexed, and you can find that again. And that means that that profile of that person is also dynamic, which is a big difference to a lot of the other platforms out there. So we, on our platform, we use it obviously to manage our own network, which is called Keanaissance, and we have 840,000 experts. And of course, you should all sign up as experts, because we've got an amazing cohort here of people that have already told us all the amazing things that they know. So it's a huge opportunity. And there's different ways that you can engage on the platform, and they're all paid it can be your side hustle too. And then we're using that technology that we use for ourselves to enable people to build their own private networks. So we have many different organisations, from corporates through to the investment sector, as well as now associations and other applications that are being used to really map out either internal networks, or in some cases external. So we believe that there's a lot of possibilities in this space. So how it works is you have an entire database of either your own experts, or in our case, we have 840,000. You can request different ways to engage with those people, And then we have transcripts. You can upload other supporting documentation. So if you're an expert that has got white papers or other studies, you upload all of that. It's all indexed and searchable as well. And then we can streamline the entire process. So obviously in the investment sector, there is a lot of compliance requirements. We have all the compliance built in. We put them through all of their anti-money laundering, MMPI, all of the other acronyms that they need to go through, and that training is done so you know that those experts are enabled for you to speak to. And we're looking at a whole range of different pain points that we've seen, and we've already sold into a lot of these areas, but we've recently only kind of unveiled the Link Circle solution. So a lot of B2B customers wanting customer insights are using the platform. We've also got the kind of, I guess, the traditional users came out of the investors sector, and you can either use Link Answers or build your own with Link Circle. So we've seen with a lot of PE firms, they connect all of their portfolio companies, and in order to drive improved growth, they are connecting the portfolio companies with each other. So different functions. So it might be your HR function connecting. It might be your marketing functions connecting. But they obviously also connect their own operational functions as well as their advisors that they often have. And I think what's been great on the advisor sector, back to that purpose piece, is often a lot of those advisors had all been men. And so we can actually introduce a range of women from our database and say, here's some other people that you might like to consider to be your advisors. And then we have this sort of knowledge hub concept as well, where a lot of associations and other corporates are looking at how do they actually manage their internal knowledge hubs better and let people find the people that they need to do their jobs internally. So I'm sort of come through that. So our network itself looks like this. So we have the 840,000 experts. You can see, I also see, like, people ask me always, what's the top 3 industries? Well, I think it's sort of a bit of, you know, whatever's going on in the market becomes the top 3. So you can see it's pretty obvious at the moment, financials, then IT and healthcare. Given what we've seen with COVID, it's sort of a bit of a proven story there. I'm not going to read all of these, but the full deck is available, so there's a lot of information here. But with Circle, this ability to brand and organise your own network, it's once again, it's a white labelled solution, so it would look like, you know, ABC company network. We help with that end-to-end workflow, though, in terms of making it easy to invite people to your network, how you make sure they're compliant, you can batch upload them, we do all the indexing and using our AI, and then you can also integrate with your CRM systems. Well, it's on the roadmap. But, you know, I'm in sales, so I'll always say it's all there. We've got lots of proven stories already of success. So we were in stealth mode for quite some time. But we have key customers that I can tell you about. We have a partnership with UBS. So UBS have been using Circle in multiple areas across the firm, as well as obviously using our Answers solution. And they also have a referral program with us, and they're investors. So UBS have been highly influential in, you know, how we're moving forward as well. So I'm not going to go through all of the strategy here, but, you know, this is all about what we're aiming to do and how focused we are in terms of our sales strategy and how we're moving and what our projections are. But obviously, everything's in there. We've been very strong with our corporate growth and how we're really targeting the corporate sector now. And we have a pretty targeted sales and growth perspective in terms of how we're going after the market. So it's super exciting. We've obviously had good growth year on year, and you can see some of the ways that we're seeing even the expansion within particular teams in terms of how they have taken the platform and then moved it into different areas of their organisation. This is our existing customer base, which you can see is fairly well spread across different areas, from, you know, consumer to financials, and the professional services, as well as the TMT space. And we see it as a huge opportunity in terms of the addressable market of where we can go with this technology. So super exciting, and I will leave it with that that's our team, and you can see Peggy Choi here is our founder. And I see there's a few Wharton people on the list, so they might know Peggy. So back to your INSEAD connections, I'm sure that the Wharton gang is equally strong.
Kimberley, thank you. That's amazing. Thank you very much. Now stay there for a minute. You're based in Hong Kong, living in Portugal, running global sales. Talk to us just a little bit about how do you look so fresh and wonderful when you're working from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. answering phone calls and all that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I've got to say about being in the middle of the world with a GMT time zone is advantageous compared to an Asia time zone and working through till midnight. I'm much better in the morning than I am at night.
Okay. Now, you've got a group of very connected people here, and they might have said, okay, right, I might sign up for Link Answers. I hope you do. And they'll have all sorts of friends in various parts. How do they know if they're qualifying somebody, their friend who does blah, 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 is a good client for you, and they might reach out to you? How should they? Because everybody will say, well, maybe it's not really worth the effort. It's not really what Kimberley. But they might have 19 clients here for you. Help really us to understand how to qualify it for you.
As an expert or as a customer?
As a customer.
The expert side, I think, is very interesting because everyone has something that someone wants to know. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a PhD like Lee. You could actually be an operational person on the ground. They might want to know, how many people do you require to run a coffee shop in Beijing and talk about that sort of chain. So it's very interesting in terms of some of them want very specific operational information, not the kind of strategic market level market entry, but some do. From a how do you use us, it can be a lot of different things. So as I said, some people want to do almost like a market research, but they want a group of specific experts that they can speak to around a particular strategy that they want to investigate. Obviously, a lot of it is done around due diligence for investment purposes.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, please, Lauren.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, I was kind of hoping for some specific examples, and I noticed that within the deck there was some maybe Shiseido was listed as a client in a case study. So how would they use Link, for example?
So a lot of the things that I just said. So some of the, if it's their, they might have teams where they're looking for acquisitions. So those will do a lot more of the sort of due diligence workspace. But they do competitor landscaping, market entry, consumer, customer insight work. So it's so many different things that the teams, and even that Shiseido example, they started with their strategy team, and then they moved into their innovation lab teams, and they wanted to do totally different things to what the first group did.
Okay. Well, yes, please. We got Jack.
The list of your customers, and I didn't see a single law firm on there, and I wondered, are lawyers just adverse to doing this, or
no?
What
Actually,
are you finding?
GLG has a huge law practice. We've just tried to focus more specifically, but we are already working with a potential partnership with a law firm in China, which we want to do much more as some of the circles that have been created. So one of the circles that UBS has created, for example, they have added all of their macro analysts into the circle, and that gives access to everyone within our customer environment could employ a UBS analyst to speak to the board or whatever, not the stock pickers, but the macro guys. With that legal side, especially, we do have startups who use us, and they often want that almost, ad hoc advice from lawyers around certain areas. So there are other services in that space, but we are looking at some of those things. But it's really just been there's a lot of opportunity, and where do we focus?
We have one last question. Yeah, we got Scott. Here we go.
Yeah. You asked me this the other day. So, I mean, MiFID II has been, I guess, an opportunity and certainly a disruption, but I don't know that it's getting around. We don't get around regulations, but it's certainly an alternative in terms of how you can gain insight and advice around, within the investment space.
So your experts could actually be pointing towards the buy side,
Yep.
and the experts could be sell side. They could exchange information and views without it actually falling under the regulations on providing research for money.
Yeah, because it's not considered research because it's insight across and we also think that it's very different because it's specific to your requirements. So it's much better than if you just read a research paper that's not written specifically for you. And the fact that everything's being transcribed, you build up your own knowledge database as well. So in that investment case where you maybe have junior analysts coming in, it's a great way that they can get up to speed on particular areas as well. So we call it sort of industry immersion is available by using the platform as well.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Kimberly. That's fantastic. Really, really.